going on, guys? We're live again. Mike, Gov, watching some NBA playoffs. We're gonna recap the UFC. It was a weird UFC, man. Like there was some real good stuff happening and some real bad stuff happening, and I think it made for good drama though. So like the NBA always wants drama. I think Dana White just unbuttons his shirt a little bit. He lets his chest get a little bit red, and he just waits to see what happens. He doesn't care. Some people think he gets so red because people throw tomatoes at him, Mike, but I don't really think Dana White cares if it's tomatoes, if it's heat stroke. Like as long as it's exciting, Dana White's happy. But he's got to be disappointed with that Rose fight, right?
Yeah, I think he mentioned as much in the post-fight interview. Neither fighter really did anything. I think everybody who watched the fights knows that. I want to say in the first 2 rounds combined, there were like 15 punches, 15 significant strikes. And I have to say, if I had to pick a winner in that fight, although Rose made probably the best case in the final round with that late takedown, but Carla got her taken down twice, and nobody really threw any punches of any significance. I don't know how you called any of those strikes significant strikes because there was no follow up to anything. Everything was just a jab, maybe. Like they were. The one thing I'll say about that fight is those two women, they fought before. Rose was looking at it like, this is the woman I lost to in my first UFC fight. I have to take her, the utmost respect and know what she's capable of. But Carla had that same amount of respect. They had that perfect level of respect for one another where no one was willing to take any chances. And then they just kept saying to each other, well, I haven't done enough to lose this fight yet, so I'm not the one that needs to jump first. And it just turned out to be like Woodley and Wonder Boy 2, where they had the same thing. They both saw how close that first fight was and knew each other's power and stuff. But that's what it turned out to be. And I think the judges got it right. It was 2 takedowns to 1.
Yeah.
All in 3 separate rounds. And then the other 2 rounds were nearly impossible to judge. I mean, the whole fight was nearly impossible to judge. So you have to go with what actually happened. But we don't, unless anyone else wants to say, we don't need to talk about that fight too much because there was a lot of other really good fights on that card. But Dana's pissed, like you said.
Yeah. Let me just say, I'm disappointed. Not that they showed respect for each other and they were conservative, because I spoke about it. I know we spoke about it off camera, but I think I spoke about it on the podcast as well, about how sometimes you're not always going to get that banger fight. We're watching mixed martial arts, so we're going to get a mix. And sometimes that means we're going to get crows when we want doves, and we're going to, get pigeons when we want ravens, and things like that. It's a mixed bag. It really is. The problem is, I didn't feel like either fighter wanted to open any bag. It was a mixed bag of nothing. And that was my problem with it. And it was like both fighters wanted to wait for the other to make a mistake. And then I thought both corners, that's the thing is in basketball or these other sports, baseball, we blame managers, umpires, different elements. And a lot of times the UFC is like one entity. It's more like golf. It's like it's on you. But I thought the corners were giving really bad advice in that fight. I know Pat Barry gave Rose some really bad advice. Going into the last round, he said that she couldn't lose because she's the best final round fighter.
And he said she was up 4 rounds to none. I believe.
And then he told her she was up 4 rounds to 1, and he's like, let it go, have fun, be loose. You basically got it. It was just bad advice. And then Joe Rogan tried to get an explanation from Carla, and she was just like really defensive. And I don't even think Joe Rogan's questions were out of bounds. I think he was just trying to figure out, like, was there an injury? Was there mutual respect? And she was like really defensive in a weird way where most of the time me and Mike will tell you guys, like, the UFC fighters are usually really transparent and they're really open and honest. And I just felt like, okay, not only did you put on a bad performance, you're not even acknowledging that it was a bad performance. And so I lost respect for both fighters. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to parse words. They didn't throw any punches. I will tonight. I lost respect for both of them. It wasn't that they were conservative and bouncing around, and they weren't measuring anything. Like, if they were in the kitchen trying to cook something, like, I would be like, okay, they're measuring each other up. They were just being lazy. I don't know what that fight was. It wasn't good. It was the worst fight I've seen probably in a decade.
Yeah. I want to hear what Gov has to say.
To be fair, I didn't watch much of the fights. I have been catching up on all my Marvel stuff because I'm going to see Doctor Strange on Tuesday.
Fair enough. Honesty at its best. I'll say maybe
UFC is not my thing. I wish I could roll my brother in here because I know he would have something to say because he definitely watched the fights. I get all my UFC knowledge from him.
Well, I mean,
I need to get him on at some point, or
maybe we can. It's up to you, but
no, yeah, I'll have to figure that out.
I'll listen to him, but
yeah,
no problem. But I'll say, listening to what you've said again now that I'm thinking about it, because it's one thing. Like I said, it was Tyron Woodley and Wonder Boy 2 had a similar thing where they just kind of just size each other up, dance around, jab here, jab there, like just measuring, but you're not touching the guy either. There was another fight, I believe it was Derek Lewis versus Nganu.
Yep.
But if they fought twice, it was the first one. I can't remember if they fought a second time now where Nganu would have won, but I can't remember now. I feel like they did fight a second time. But the first time they fought, they both had that same thing. And you thought this was going to be awards, two of the biggest, baddest knockout artists.
Mm-hmm.
And both guys didn't want to throw at all because they didn't want to get caught by the other guy if they missed. And I get that. But then after the fight, Derek Lewis won, and he was like, man, this doesn't even feel right that I won, but I apologize. I hurt my back. And this was back when he was having back issues. So you kind of understood it, and he felt bad. He acknowledged it. At least you said it too. Like, he was transparent about it. And I'm not saying Carla wasn't transparent about it, but I'm thinking maybe it was that perfect storm where I don't remember what her corner was telling her. But if you have your corner who are your coaches, these are the people you work with every day, they're people you love and trust, they're your family. If they're telling you you're up, and with Rose, it's literally her husband, you trust this person. Mm-hmm. So you're thinking, I don't have to make the move. It's on them to make the move. And maybe, they always talk about when you're calling the fight on the sideline, Joe Rogan, John Anik, those guys, it's so hard to score the fight when you're calling the fight. I'm sure it's really hard to score the fight when you're fighting in the fight. You're kind of just like, you're live. You're not even thinking. Yeah. Everything is just instinct. So you're not even concentrating on whether or not you're doing good. Now, granted, if you get a takedown and you're ground and pound and you fucking won the first round, or vice versa, you knock the person down. But if you just know it was a stand-up fight for 5 minutes and then you go back to your corner and your corner's like, you're doing everything right, you're killing it. And then the coach kind of has to go on with that. If they've been saying that for 4 rounds, like, you're up 4-0, like, you're doing great. Like,
yeah,
it was kind of that perfect storm almost, where it was just like the perfect storm for a terrible, terrible fucking fight, because it was. And luckily, there was a killer knockout and a killer submission. Great round fight, which we're going to get to. But if there's anything else anyone else wants to say.
Man, I just got to say, as a general statement, okay, so I think it's a lot like offensive linemen in football or caddies in golf. Like, I don't think we give acknowledgement until we see the extremes of the good coaching or the good corners and the bad corners. I know Ronda Rousey's corner used to get a lot of shit. I forget his name. They used to call him like the Tasmanian Devil because his name was like Tasmanian.
Oh,
But he
I'm
was
not
like a
gonna-
boxing guy, and he was gonna like revolutionize their boxing, and he would just give her terrible advice too. I don't think they meant to.
Travis Brown, or is that her husband? That's her
Travis Brown was
husband.
her husband. Yeah. Tavarian or something was his name. I
I can't
forget, but
remember.
either way, like that's the horizon in that kind of thing. It's like you either see the really good or the really bad, and it's not until we see that mirror image that we realize, oh, this is bad. Carla's advice was, oh, you can out wrestle her, so just take her down a few more times, and don't. It's like me and Mike love morning combat, right? And so Luke Thomas and Brian Campbell were talking about it. And Luke basically said, I don't think the fight was as bad as it was perceived. But the problem is when you're fighting for fight bonuses and you want more fights down the line, right? Like you want to make an impact on your boss. And so it's not just about winning that fight, basically. It's about making an impact for your next fight. You know, like we're going to talk about Chandler and his promo after the fight. I mean, that guy sold himself beautifully, showed off the family, said Happy Mother's Day, basically, you know, like showed respect to his opponent and then called up the next one, but did it in like an entertaining way. The way Carla was defensive, it makes you not want to watch her ever again. It makes you not want to buy a pay-per-view again. And then so what's Dana supposed to do? You know, it's hard to sell, you know. And that's why even when it's fake, a guy like Vince McMahon gets so much credit because at least, you know, even though that's a choreographed sport, he knows how to make some things entertaining.
Well, now Carl is the champ, so she's obviously going to fight in the title fight. But Dana did say that it's going to be the winner of the Wei Lee and Joanna Jędrzejczyk rematch because they had one of the best fights of all time. Not even an exaggeration.
Yeah.
That was not even just one of the best women's fights of all time, one of the best fights of all time. It was a war. Joanna's head swole up like she was an alien. That was such an instant classic. Yeah. You knew it when you were watching it through like 3 rounds. You're like, I don't know how this is going to go the distance, but man, if it does, holy shit. I don't know who's going to win either. I don't know who's up right now. Like, it was such an incredible fight. I am so looking forward to that fight. I don't think Joanna's even fought since that fight.
I got to work some overtime, Mike, or something. I might have to fly to Jersey for that one. We might have to have a WrestleMania kind of moment. This is big time, man. We might have to take the show on the road and because I'll tell you what, though, Jesse, man, if you guys haven't seen that podcast we did with Jesse, he's a football guy. We were planning on talking football, and he was like, nah, give me your bar experience, you know, whatever topics come up. That guy was so happy to talk about the UFC. Like, that's the cool thing about this sport is it's starting to really gain some popularity. And even a guy like Gov, who might not watch this week, you got to watch that Joanna Jędrzejczyk fight with Young Lee, man. That's gonna be a game.
Oh yeah, I'll probably go to the bar that night. Yeah,
definitely. But yeah, so that'll be. He basically told Rose like, "You're not getting a rematch. That was not worth a rematch. No one wants to see that shit again." But Gov, just to get you back in this, what do we got right now as far as a basketball update for all the people watching who are NBA fans?
Well, we are at halftime, and Philly is up 8, 64-56. Maxey made a bucket right at the end. Like, it looks like a good game from what I've been watching, all right? Like, Butler's playing kind of not aggressively. He's giving up the ball a little more today, and he's not getting the assists he should for it. He's also not getting any rebounds. So I don't know if he's tired and not running around. I don't know if they're playing a little better defense on him. It doesn't look like it. Embiid, though, he's Batman. He has the mask. You cannot stop him. He's undefeatable. This might be the end of everyone. This might screw my Giannis pick. going to the finals. It might screw with my Giannis for MVP because now he's playing injured with the mask. And if he dominates like he has been, this is going to look really good for Embiid here in the playoffs. And Philly might, if Philly can get past Miami and he's playing like this, they can probably get past Milwaukee or Boston too. Also, Harden's playing well tonight.
He
Of
is.
course.
No,
Fat
Harden's playing
James.
really well.
It's not Fat James Harden tonight, of course.
Well, what I like about Harden though is like it's not even his production.
Like he's getting assists, he's getting people open. He's a good, like he is a very good offensive basketball player.
Yeah, he looks energized. Like sometimes I feel like he presses, like, and people got to realize that these players, they're on social media, they get a lot of pressure from their cities. He's actually playing kind of loose. To go back to the UFC though, Mike, talk about looseness. I know Tony Ferguson talked about, he was gonna come in and have fun. He came out to like Barbie World and was dancing around and like he really enjoyed his like walk up music and he was doing different things and he looked really good in that first round. But I never bought it. It was like an old man to me who knew his gas tank was limited and he knew he had to like turn back the clock. And so he tried. And I love Tony, don't get me wrong. Because I got it from Chris Paul hate, on this podcast too, because I'm dishonest when I see age take effect. And I don't like it. Like I would rather you retire on top, Michael Strahan style. Mike knows Michael Strahan being a Giant fan. I'd rather like leave on a good note, right? And I just don't like to see this like ugly exits. I didn't like to see Shaq play. I mean, I would say Boston, but then people say, "Well, you're a Lakers fan." But even when he played for Phoenix, like I didn't like it. It was just like, come on, man, like. I don't like it when people play in the Big Three contest, even though I like Ice Cube. Like, it's just not good. And so we saw that, though. I want to mention, and we can go back to Tony because I know you're biting to talk about Tony, but we also saw Shogun. Please, Dana. I know Dana White said that he was going to honor his contract and give Shogun one more fight. Please don't. Please.
I'm. Guy wants to make one more paycheck. I'm not going to tell him no. I understand it's probably going to do more damage to his body, but he's looking at it like probably for the sake of his family. If he wants to provide an extra, I mean, this guy's a UFC big time vet. Like, so I'm sure he's got one of those nice contracts where he's making at least six figures. Yeah. And then if he were to win somehow, maybe they'll give him a nice,
I guess
way fight like Donald Cerrone gets Lozon. Like I feel like that's a very even fight too. I was sad to see that Donald got food poisoning and couldn't fight. Apparently, there's bad tacos in Arizona. Watch out! Don't trust the tacos in Arizona. Tacos are good in New Jersey, but don't come here. Because we get enough tourists as it is.
How's the tacos?
Our streets with more traffic. It's enough.
How's the tacos in Orlando?
I mean, I had tacos today. They were pretty good. I had tacos last night. They were pretty good.
I guess the tacos in Florida
but there's a lot of Spanish people in Florida. I'll say that. So I get decent tacos.
Yeah, I bet there's a lot of good spots.
I haven't had a really, really good taco since California. There were some bomb ass fucking tacos in Southern California, though.
I believe that.
I gotta say, while we break down this fight, there's some really cool things the UFC does that not a lot of sports do that I gotta give them credit for, Mike. They mentioned on their broadcast on a pay-per-view for the Ultimate Fighting Championship, the UFC, they mentioned Michael Chandler's Bellator record and his success over there. I love that they do that because, like, sure, fighters' pay is fucked. That's true in some ways, right? but they also do things that a lot of other sports wouldn't do. You would never hear Roger Goodell talk about someone's Canadian football, past. He would just never do it.
Well, they would. Maybe
They
not
would.
Roger Goodell, but the announcer of a game would.
I don't know.
I've
man.
heard him say that. Yeah.
When Warren
I've
Moon
heard him
played in
mention-
the CFL, they
Yeah.
would mention
Like if
him.
you
Maybe.
did something significant,
It's-
but they're not just going to mention like, yeah, this guy started 12 games in the
Part of
CFL.
the reason-
It's like, no, like, but if you won a CFL title, like, yeah, they'll mention that.
Part
like,
of it is
Jake
too.
Delhomme, they mention that. Like,
He was 1-2 in the UFC so far, so that's
Yeah.
hard to sell to the casual fan. If you've seen Michael Chandler fight, win or lose, it's going to be a show. Like, he's not kidding. Him and Gaethje are the two most entertaining. Although I don't know how you can say Oliveira is not entertaining either, because all his last 3 fights have been like big time shows. You may not see, him throwing these bomb overhands, but he's got long arms. He's definitely got bigger reach than everybody, so he can land on you before you can touch him. And he's got a lot of power in these straight punches and his check hooks. Like,
Okay.
he knocked Chandler out with the check hook. He knocked
Yeah.
Gaethje down with the straight.
He did.
You don't ever see Gaethje get knocked down.
Well,
Like, the
let's
whole
break it
Tony
down.
fight, he was just piecing him apart. But I don't know. I just think all 3 of those, the lightweight division is lights out entertainment. I am just
Well, let's just
I'm so
do
giddy
something.
to talk about these 2 fights because we haven't
Yeah.
even gotten to them. I'm just talking about
Let's,
the
well,
fighters
let's do
themselves.
something fun. If Gov can participate with us, I don't know if he can.
we'll see.
But as we break this Tony fight down, Gov, I need you to look up, and you can probably find it on YouTube. See if you can find the highlight knockout of Michael Chandler on Tony Ferguson. And me and Mike will break it down, and then I want your live reaction as soon as you see it.
Wow. I type in Tony, and the first thing on YouTube is Tony Ferguson versus Michael Chandler. Knockout.
Yeah,
Tony
well,
Ferguson knocked out.
it's not a 5-second knockout like the Masvidal Ben Askren one, but it was pretty early in that second round,
UFC
and
274, right? Yeah.
Yep.
it was so like out of
It's
nowhere.
like a minute 16 seconds. I'm watching it right now.
Mike, I will say it was the best kick I've seen, but it was also the most impactful kick I've seen.
Yes, I would agree 100% with that. I think I might be prisoner of the moment if I just say overall it's the best one. But like, if you think about Michael Chandler's
Oh
legs,
shit!
they are not.
Oh,
They're tree trunks. His thighs are ginormous, and so he's got all that power. And then it was just his knee snapping up to say, "I'm kicking you." And then I realized on the replay, there's one good still shot where he's actually hitting his chin with the heel of his foot. So I mean, it wasn't the front of his foot. It was like the absolute most solid, rock solid part of his foot. I mean, like, Michael Chandler should get his foot checked out after that.
I really love that Gov didn't see it until now, because me and Mike, we were ready to break this down all day, and we just got Gov's live reaction. That was a fantastic kick, was it not, Gov?
oh shit, dude! Like, I'm just watching him jump around the ring right now, doing backflips after the fight, and the dude hasn't even moved on the ground. That was a heel. Good lord!
It
That
reminded
landed
me,
as clean as you can fucking see. My God.
That's what I was at the bar. One of my cousins was in town. He hit me up, so I was like, all right, I'm gonna go out to the bar tonight and watch the fight. So that's why we didn't do a live show too. But he's he admitted he's like, I'm a casual UFC fan. I wish I could watch more, but I just don't. So, and I get it. It's you can't always get all the pay-per-views and stuff like that. And so it's hard to keep up with the best guys too.
Yeah.
But after we watched that knockout, obviously we all just had our instant reaction like, whoa, just like Gov was doing. But then I looked at him, I'm like, you might have just seen one of the best knockouts in UFC history. and then I was like, all right, maybe I'm overreacting, but seriously, how good was that? He's like, I don't think you're kidding. That, check it out for yourself if you haven't seen it, folks. I know we got this live NBA chat, and we're going to get to the NBA once we get over these couple fights, but it's
we might.
How long was that fight? I'm now looking at a replay and
it was the second round of that.
I was about to say that was the second round. Good Lord.
The first round was great too. Tony might have even edged him in the first round. I thought it's close. I wouldn't have argued if the judges apparently had scored it. I don't know what they scored it, but and Michael Chandler got the takedown, and then he was on top for about half the round. But I thought Tony was doing pretty good in the stand-up in the first round, as you can see by Chandler's cut on his eye. And then Tony, even on the ground on his back, was landing elbows from the top, which is something he does.
Yeah, the replay I was watching, it kind of looked like a pretty even fight, looking good in the first round.
I gotta say, I think Tony won that first round.
It was close, but I would have given it to him if I had to judge. But I was kind of rooting for him. Nothing against Michael Chandler. I'm an even bigger fan of him now. What can't you like about him? He's got a beautiful wife. He's got a couple adopted kids. And he's a great promoter of the sport and himself. He's a great interview in general, pre-fight, post-fight, likable guy. You can say he might be a little arrogant because he talks in the third person or something like that, but he does overall. I would say he seems pretty down to earth. He says he doesn't take himself too seriously, and I kind of believe him. He's an all-around good dude, I would say. Just my opinion, but I like the guy. I'm a fan.
But I always thought his confidence came off more genuine, opposed to a Kobe Covington who obviously does it for the gimmick. Like Michael Chandler kind of seems like Dusty Rhodes, where Covington seems like gold dust or something. Like Covington's always wearing the face mask. He's always trying to be the villain or the superhero or this and what makes that hard though is it's hard to break character. It's hard to show your fans appreciation. And that's what I love about Chandler. Yeah, you could say the backflips were disrespectful while Tony was on the mat. Maybe they were to some people. Maybe it was hella athletic to other people. But one thing you can say is the man is himself. He was looking for his kids. He started to cry. He started picking them up and really expressing emotions. See, that's something Covington can't do when he's playing this villainous character. And that's the thing about the UFC that I like, is Mike mentioned it. He can go to the bar with a casual family member, who watches it casually and enjoy it. And I feel like that's why this sport is so translatable. I mean, Gov didn't watch any of the fights, and we could tell him within a minute, hey, YouTube this and watch this. I didn't have to tell him, hey, James Harden is one of the best shooting guards, and he can shoot threes, and his field goal percentage is this. In a lot of other sports, you have to know so much context to know who's good and who's bad, who the good coaches are, and all this. The UFC is they're just point blank, dude. That it was, but I wanted to get back to it, Mike. The reason why I say it was a hell of a knockout, impressive, just highlight reel knockout. It was also really impactful because I don't think we see Tony fight for a championship ever again. I think Tony, of course, I think Tony has a chance to Let me just end this ball. But I think Tony has a chance to basically be like a gatekeeper, right? For the UFC or like a spokesman, for the younger fighters if he wants to. But I don't want to see him up against the top 5 anymore. I've just seen too much.
Yeah.
Because the thing was about him was he was just an iron. Funny enough, I'm going to bring up Mike Tyson, but that's kind of what he reminded me of. Is like his rise. He had such a fan base, and people loved him. He was like a Conor McGregor, like excitement, but like a good guy. Like he didn't talk a lot of trash. He would take the punches. And it's just like now he can't take the punches, Mike.
Yeah,
I don't know.
took a few, but you can't. Nobody can take a kick like that clean. Like you are gonna fall face first when you get hit like that. It's sad to see. It's almost like the and I love Frankie Edgar, but I feel like he's at that point in his career, and Tony's kind of at that point in his career where their losses are starting to pile up in a row now, and I know Tony's lost now 4 in a row. I can't say exactly how many Frankie's lost in a row, but I'd say he's lost probably 4 of his last 5 at least, unfortunately. And they've both taken front kicks to the chin. With Frankie, it was from Chito Vera. It was still pretty nasty. It was a definite clean knockout. Like no extra punches needed after that. It knocked him clean out. But as far as the power, I mean, it's a 20-pound, I believe, difference in weight class. So that says a lot. And damn, I hope, Tony's okay, obviously, first and foremost. And then next, I hope he can make something for the rest of his career. Like, I don't want to see this guy just come in and be an L every time. Like, I thought he looked good. He definitely just got caught, and that's tough because that can just happen, and maybe that comes with just being older, not as quick as a spring chicken.
You know what I like about this podcast, Mike, is we're so new that we can like take different angles and we can sharpen the knives in different ways than most people do. Like we don't gotta like, oh, this is a UFC breakdown or this is about but these are the topics we're gonna talk about. And like I love Tony, right? Daniel Cormier was talking about before the fight started. Actually, no, correction. It was the end of the first round. He mentioned how he interviewed most of these fighters, right? And Tony got the most hits of anyone on his YouTube video to speak to Tony's popularity still. And it's like that in the NBA too. It's like you never know when someone's career is like transitioning or like gonna pop off. Like some people would have thought Victor Oladipo would have been done a few years ago after a couple injuries, and now he's back playing at a high level. I bet people don't know this, but Joe Johnson, I believe, is on the Boston Celtics still. So there are like guys where you're like, oh, this guy's still playing pretty well for his age, and then there's guys like, why are you taking up a roster spot for a year? And the problem with that is, like in the UFC, it's like we don't know because some guys can seemingly fight forever, and then other guys are like, okay, well they were great for this short amount of time, but they were still great, like a Tyson, where you see, Holyfield fight for 20 more years, and it's just like I don't know. I guess you got to judge it. You got to judge it case by case, but I think in this case, not that it's a cold case, but I want to see Tony almost in a senior tour kind of role now. Like Be a mentor. You know?
Be a gatekeeper. Take on these young guys, see if they're ready to take the next step, or and while you're down, while you're being a gatekeeper, maybe you start racking up some wins again and get some confidence back, and also like maybe you don't take as much damage because you can out with these guys. I don't know. I just hope for the best, and it's tough to watch fighters you like a lot and have loved over the years, similar to Cerrone, just towards the end take loss after loss, and they're not even decisions, they're just getting knocked out. Like those are, or if they are decisions, they're just super one-sided. Like the Gaethje fight, I think actually did get called, but like in the fifth round late, and Tony was still standing, he was just a zombie. But
well, I gotta say, I appreciate the love we're getting in the chat from our guys. It might just be one or two guys, but like, even if it is one or two guys that pop in, just say hello. Say you appreciate us or you don't like us. Any engagement is good.
And feel free to ask questions. Like, I'm ready to answer anything you got. I may not know much about fighting, but ask whatever you got. We'll see.
Well, we mentioned how you have to change up your style, right? And how Tony could take a punch, right, Mike? And that was kind of his thing. Like, he was just an Iron Man. Gaethje, to transition to our last fight that we really want to hit on, he changed his style. Because Gaethje was kind of known as a chainsaw fighter. He would come in, he would start the chainsaw, and he would buzzsaw right for you.
Yeah.
But then he realized that shit isn't going to work, It's a lot like J.J. Redick. I think J.J. Redick could have been a decent three-point shooter for a couple of years in the NBA. He realized, okay, if I'm going to have a 12, 13-year career in the NBA, I need to play better defense. Not that you need to be a great defender, but you need to at least like strengthen your weaknesses. And Gaethje, I feel like, has transformed himself. Like, he was good. I think he took himself to the great level. And I got to give him credit for that. I mean, Justin Gaethje looked fantastic. And the same thing can be said for why am I blanking? Oliveira. I want to see that fight again. We talked about not wanting to see a Rose fight again. I need to see those two fight again. It was a short fight. There was a lot going on. And the reason I say it was short is because, like, I feel like it could have went another 5 rounds if one thing happens differently. Like, Gaethje was almost up. He was almost up and out of that somehow. And Oliveira scrambled again and took him down. I mean, the level of mastery from both fighters was perfect. I honestly thought both fighters fought a perfect fight, but somebody had to win.
I disagree, but I will say Gaethje looked great.
Yeah.
But I think he, kind of like you were mentioning before, kind of fell back into his old habits and it may have been like induced by Oliveira, where he's kind of gotten more comfortable with taking shots. Like, he's like, my chin's actually not bad anymore. I can take him. Or even if I do get knocked down to the ground, I'm still going to be conscious where I will be able to make do on the ground with my jiu-jitsu, because I'm definitely better than Justin on the ground, which Justin obviously was aware of, and he was like, I don't want any part of this. When I knocked him down the first time, second time, he kind of fell down on his own. But I thought Justin got in that. They were fighting in a phone booth, I think one of the announcers said, and I'm like, they really are. They're very in tight, close, and both letting them fly. Like, not necessarily at the time, at first it wasn't over aggressive. It was still calculated.
Mike, Jimmy Butler took a big fall.
It was a bit of a swipe. Like, Embiid it wasn't malicious. Embiid clearly was swiping for the ball, But his long ass arms, when he missed, just smacked him right in the face.
I'm not going to judge intent. I'm just saying I wanted to point that out because it was a potential.
I mean, Embiid's sitting there
Yeah,
wearing
he's
a mask
fine.
for
He
getting
just
smacked in
great.
the face. He didn't mean to smack nobody in the face.
But
I saw the
going.
replay. He's clearly looking at the ball and went for the ball and then smacks him in the face. But they did call a technical. Jimmy Butler's taking the technical free throw.
It's true.
And he should still get one because it was a shooting foul.
Given the live nature of our podcast, I just want to point out the big moments when they happen. So keep going, Mike. You're making some good points.
Yeah, I just forget where I was.
It's okay.
I know it was the fight, but
you were talking about how they were fighting in a phone booth and how.
Yeah, so Gaethje, that's right. Okay, thank you. But Gaethje just basically made one critical error. He was doing good, he was composed, it was aggressive, but they were both, looking for strikes and then also looking to counter off the other guy's first strikes when the other one would strike first. And then Gaethje at one point, and if you've watched the fight, you'll remember this, he overextends himself big time. And he swings so hard and misses, he falls to the ground.
Yep.
I think that was the turning point in the fight. That part of that may have contributed to the straight punch that Oliveira hit, knocking him to the ground. I think it partially gassed him out. Maybe, it was later in the first round, so he had already been throwing a lot. He was definitely going hard. It wasn't like he was being super calculated like his other fights where Tony was seriously just, he would throw two, but he would gather himself after that. He didn't just keep going, and where this first round was a lot of action. Both of the guys were going. And then, so he misses. Then shortly after that is when Oliveira hits the straight, knocks him to the ground, and Gaethje, actually first, it looks like Oliveira is going to pounce on him with a punch. And I don't know exactly if he misses the punch or this was calculated, but he misses the punch right by his neck instead of his head. It goes right by his neck, and then he turns it into, I'm going on your back and I'm going for the choke. So whether it was calculated to look like a punch and he was just going for the choke the whole time, I don't know. We'd have to ask him. I'd love to ask him. We should get him on the show.
I'll reach out to him.
What?
I'll reach out to him. I'm not kidding. When you reach out to these bigger people, it's like the attractive girl theory, okay? If everyone's afraid to talk to the attractive girl, then nobody talks to the attractive girl, and the attractive girl is lonely. I've reached out to some big YouTubers, and I don't even shout them out because I think we're going to be big someday, and so I'm going to pay it forward the same way they paid their advice forward to me. And having a guy like Jesse on was huge. I mean, we saw huge amounts of views and stuff like that. So don't sleep. We might get Gaethje on here. You never know.
Well, I want to ask Oliveira because I want to ask him if he was going for the punch that, or if he just missed the punch and then slipped it into the choke, or it was a technique. Because what happened was Gaethje goes to either avoid the punch or he's just trying to get up altogether. But he goes like this, and that's what gives up his back. And then he's in no place to protect himself because he's got a hand on the ground trying to get up. And then that's when Charles sneaks in the first part of the choke, which he doesn't fully lock in at that point. But then it's just a matter of time because, he's in jiu-jitsu, I guess, for an analogy like Logan likes to give, he's, Oliveira is a python and, Gaethje's just like a mouse almost, like it's over.
Well, speaking of which,
he's gonna stop your breathing.
I gotta go drain my python, so hopefully you and Gov can hold the shit down for just a few more minutes.
All right, Gov, I'll dish it to you then, and let's go right into NBA. I know it's a
okay. Yeah, they're in a TV timeout right now. Yeah. Literally after that happened, like Butler made the bucket. They called the technical on Embiid, so he got the free throw and the ball. They immediately gave it to him. He hits a three. So, like, Jimmy Butler going nuts right now. James Harden is playing well, 13 points, 8 assists. Embiid, not 20 points, 7 boards. He's looking pretty solid. 7 of 11 from the field, 5 of 5 from the line. Like they're doing what they're supposed to. 5-point game, 77-72.
Definitely
About halfway through the third quarter.
Anybody's game at this point.
Yep.
And we got
Danny Green hasn't really done anything this half. So he might have just had a good first half. But like 4 of 5, 3 of 3 from 3, 11 points, 2 boards in 17 minutes. That's not horrible. Two steals and a block. Like he played some pretty good defense.
Did Kyle Lowry coming back in?
Yes, he did. He
Okay.
did. Kyle Lowry's back in. He's playing. He actually took the final shot of the half. He's just not playing. Like he's playing a little better than Max Struss. But actually, no, they're probably playing. To be honest, they're probably playing the same because Lowry's played a few more minutes. Bam's not having a great game.
Man, if I could get Tobias Harris, Kyle Lowry, and Tyrese Maxey to have big second halves here, and Thibault to get some blocks or something, because I got Jimmy Butler as my MVP. So
I have Embiid, so I need Embiid to like Butler. I was flip flopping between Embiid and Butler. It looks like I should have gone Butler, and then use that extra money to get Tucker to Danny Green.
Yeah, I wish I had done something
like I should have done
Bible, but that's my faux pas.
Yep, Danny Green, Oladipo, Struss to go with Jimmy at captain plus Embiid plus Harris.
May I just say that I really think Kyle Lowry coming back for this Heat team is such an underrated potential. I don't think people realize how good he is. I mean, I would put him up there. He has been
very underrated. Yeah, even in Toronto, he's been very underrated.
Yeah, well, I'm talking about from his career standpoint. Like, it's just a guy. I think he's been very underrated.
It's true. He's always been at least like 1A or 1B. Like at best, he was 1A or 1B when it was him and DeMar DeRozan. You know what I mean? Like, and now same thing. Like I don't know. My point is he's not the best player on the team. He's either probably close to the second best or probably the third best. But as the third best player on your team, if you got a defensive point guard who can lock down other guys and make their lives miserable just being physical with them all night, and that's a guy who just loves that stuff and takes pride in it, kind of like a Jimmy Butler also. Like Miami's a perfect fit for him.
Yeah, no, really, like it's the closest thing to like a Toronto that they had, because Toronto had young Siakam and young Van Vliet off the bench. That's essentially Jimmy Butler and Tyler Hero. And then you also had your stud in Kawhi. That was really, so that made like that trade and the rookies they drafted that they hit on in Toronto that year basically turned Kyle Lowry from the 1A to DeRozan to the third or fourth guy on that team. And that team ran and made a title run. So I agree. This Miami team is very good. If you have Butler and you have Bam,
and
then maybe and Lowry as now like your third guy playing defensive point, you still got a good point off the bench with Hero or Oladipo.
Right. Yeah. Oladipo,
his resurgence is really helpful for them. That like they are really deep at guard. They can run with it. Like that makes them a tough matchup for the Warriors because they can run with them. And Bam can run on the court with guys better than anyone else. Like,
nobody
Adebayo versus Draymond would be a pretty good series.
I don't think anybody can guard Bam from the Warriors. I
know that's what I'm saying. Draymond would have a tough time. Looney would probably get beat.
Yeah.
Kuminga's not going to do it well. Like Bam is going to be the key in that series if he can not get played off the court. I'm with you on that.
I 100% agree. I thought one of us was going to have a different take, and I was going to get to agree with just I thought I was going to be able to split the difference, but I'm 100% on that. Bam. I love Draymond as a defender, but and not that Draymond's even a big time scorer or scoring threat, but like he's not going to threaten anything about Bam on. Bam's going to shut him down, and then I don't think Bam's really going to have that big of a problem. He's used to going up against bigger guys. Not that Draymond's not going to be physical with him, but he's still going to be able to just shoot over him, I think. I know Draymond's got long arms, but
Yeah. That's my thought. Like Draymond will probably make it competitive, but Bam will be able to play. He will have a good if Miami gets there though.
That's the thing. I'm like, go ahead, Logan.
Thibault strikes me as a guy who's going to play with Greg Popovich, like, or something, and like do really well. Like, I feel like he's gonna have a late career resurgence somewhere, like where he just puts it all together. Because like he's shown flashes of his defense and shown flashes of a 3-point shooter. I feel like one of these years he'll have that like Crowder. Remember how Crowder was? We knew he had potential, but he just never found the right home. But I'll tell you what, he finally found the right home. United Nations, United Way, whatever it was. Somebody built him the right home. He finally found it at Phoenix. I think that's going to happen at Thibault at some point.
It very well could. Like he's a solid defender, so like if a good team gets him and he can just like get with their scheme and then start working on his offensive game, that could be really good because he's still a young guy.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I should look it up, but he is still pretty young as far as I know, and I know he came out of Washington. It might have been around the Fultz draft. I'm not quite sure, but it was funny that you mentioned he might play or would likely to play for a Popovich team in the future, because earlier in the broadcast before we got on, they were saying that Thibault, if he can just work on that 3-point shot, it was right after he hit the 3. They're like, if he can be consistent like that, he could be like a Bruce Bowen. And I'm like thinking to myself, man, I get that they're trying to make it a compliment that he would be like a Bruce Bowen if he can hit the 3. But I think he could be better than Bruce Bowen.
Yeah, he went to Washington, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Drafted by Boston, first round, pick 20 in the 19 draft.
I would say if we're being honest,
young guy. He's only 3-4 years in the league.
Yeah, if we're being honest, we're somewhere between Bruce Bowen and Jimmy Butler. Probably will never reach the ceiling of Jimmy Butler, but he won't reach the floor of Bruce Bowen.
I could see that because I think I don't know exactly how big Bowen was, but I think he's a little bigger than Bowen, and I think he's, I don't know, probably just like a more athletic dunker. Like, I don't know. I feel like he can just get up more. I don't remember Bruce Bowen showing any hops ever, like, or dunking. I remember him hitting those corner threes for sure, and also making some dirty fouls for sure. But I give Thibault a better career than Bruce Bowen.
And I gotta say, while we're talking about these niche things that people need to pay more attention to, and like the potential, as it's Mother's Day, okay, so everyone should, give thanks to not only their mom, to their grandma, but all the moms. My mom cut my hair and finally got it out of my face. It happens to look really nice, but I didn't even care if it looked nice. I just wanted it out of my face. So thanks, Mom, for that. On this Mother's Day, I gotta say 2 things. One, you gotta watch that young J-Check fight. We just mentioned that. The UFC does it right with their women, as we talked about with Jesse last week. But please, everyone's got Amazon Prime at this point. The WNBA is on Amazon Prime. Almost every single game is on Amazon Prime as long as you have a subscription. I challenge See, that's how mad I am. I'm getting mad. I challenge everyone.
Oh, damn.
Stop throwing your silverware.
I will. And it's out of respect for the moms because they don't belong just in the kitchen. And I'm going to prove that to you now. If you got Amazon Prime, watch one WNBA game and tell me it isn't as exciting as any other NBA regular season game. Maybe even more so. I mean, these women don't get paid as much, so they have to work and grind a lot harder. And prayers up to Brittany Griner, but also shame on you as well because, yeah, I hope you're safe and I hope you get home well and nobody should have to go through what you're going through in some ways. But also, if you're going to travel to a foreign country where foreign substances are banned, don't bring those foreign substances on the plane. So, I hope she's safe, but also this movement that, she's like some kind of cult hero that we need to bring home. She messed up. Hopefully she makes it out of that situation safe.
We should bring her home. We should be able to get her home by now. I understand she made a mistake, and I'm not saying I agree. Like, if there are laws and rules that you can't bring that stuff on a plane, it's not like she can't pick some up when she gets back home. She's probably got to connect here too.
Yeah, I agree. No, Mike, it's one of the things. 100%. I want her home. It's like a kid who runs away from home when they're just being silly, right? They made a silly mistake. 100%, you need her home safely and get her home right away. It's kind of nonsense. She's not playing basketball because she's one of the best female basketball players of her generation. But at the same time, it's like we can punish her later, but let's get her home. I just want to mention that.
Yeah, and I mean, once she gets home, I don't think there's anything to punish her for. Like, she's been punished enough, first of all. Second, I don't even know enough about the situation. Obviously, I don't think anyone can fully know much about it because there's not been much talked about it, and she's not getting any, airtime to say anything. But it could honestly have been an honest mistake where she has like a vape pen or something like that and just put it in her bag or had it in her purse or something like that. Like, I don't know.
Right.
And it just got, went through security and they saw it, or maybe she thought, they probably won't even think anything of it. And then sure enough, it was a much bigger deal than she would have anticipated. And I would think traveling across into other countries, you want to be more careful. But, I wish her the best. I'm not going to.
That's what I'm saying is like,
I hope she gets out soon.
Appreciate your mothers because this poor woman made a mistake, right? And now she's stuck in a situation. And so, like, as we look back and we celebrate, we also got to look back at the sorrow situations to really appreciate the good times. And so, like, you could be Brittany Griner's family right now and probably want her home for Mother's Day dinner, and she can't be. So if you're able to spend some time with your mom, spend a little bit more time this week watching the WNBA. It's a good product.
And I just want to say, to reiterate Logan's point, this may have technically been a crime, but it was, in my opinion, more of a mistake that she just didn't follow the law, because it's a crime that doesn't hurt anybody.
Yeah.
It's not like she was smuggling drugs or something like that. It was probably just her vape pen or something like that. Don't know for sure, but it was probably her personal stash, if anything. Like, it's not like Brittany Griner is,
drug smuggler.
Yeah, from Russia to the U.S. with hash oil.
Well, that's the cool thing about this podcast being organic is we can mention things like that and then we can move on from it. And that's why I feel like a lot of people don't know what to say about it. It's like you can say what you want about it, which is it's a sad situation for both parties. Like and I mention it every time, but I guess that's going to be our theme. Like, and eventually people will just, when we get famous, that's what we'll be known for. Is just like seeing both sides of the coin, because that's like what I want this podcast to be.
Yeah.
Like, not where we debate things, but we debate both perspectives. You know, when you're trying to make a point, the best way to make that point is to make the counterpoint. You know, to become a counter puncher. If you want to knock somebody out, the best way to do it is to become a counter puncher.
That's true. Same in arguments or debates, not necessarily.
Speaking of, though, we talked about the UFC, like knowing when to retire, and like how some old guys, it's time, and other guys give a chance. Marcus Morris just checked in again.
Markeith Morris, yeah. 8% of
sorry.
people, 8% of people played Yurt 7 thinking he would have played in place of Deadman, and they're all fish.
But some fish are good.
Some are good. 8% is almost the rake, so that's helpful.
Jimmy Butler.
Oh, yeah. I should have just captained Butler and used that money to get from Tucker to Danny Green. That is clearly right now what I should have done. And that lineup, if I do that, that lineup is really close to being the top lineup.
So I'm going to do something kind of cool that we can do, because that's kind of what we have here as a virtual bar where I'm just shooting the shit with my friends. Where do you guys want to take this podcast?
Tonight you're talking about, or like
tonight?
I mean,
we can talk about that too, but because I have some like quick fire stuff, we could just break down the NBA, because there's a lot happening that I find interesting.
My God, Butler's a beast. I knew it, and I should have just played Butler. I did, but I didn't captain him. And I knew it. Everything, like all my stats say he had the perfect price. He's basically been the optimal captain like 6 of the 8 playoff games he's played in. It just should have been Butler.
Don't take this the wrong way, Gov, but I don't think you're ever happy, buddy. I think that's just your DFS style. But like, you always play this what if game, and like I like it because there are people like you that learn from it, and that's what I find interesting. Because
like I said, you guys know this from the last time. Like, I'm doing this in my head because I literally had this lineup locked and then switched off it. I'm only talking about the what ifs I already went through and could have, like, literally. I'm like, this is something I had. Didn't go with that lineup. Maybe I should do this. At the last second, I'm like, I would rather play Tucker over Danny Green, and if I'm going to leave that money on the table, I should just put Embiid at captain, because him and Butler should be close, if not Embiid outscoring.
Well, I just mean to say, like, me and Mike build different lineups too, and so it's interesting our different philosophies. I'm just saying, if I played that what if game as much as you do, like in game, I would drive myself nuts. Like, I would give myself the biggest like migraine headache of like every basket scored by somebody I didn't have to railroad myself about, oh, I didn't have this. Like that to me would just like, so at some point I got to be like a coach with my lineup. It's like, these are my ride or dies for the night. They're on my squad. So no matter what happens with anybody else, these are my guys. So like that's how I do it. I couldn't do it the way you do, man, but I appreciate it. Like it's almost like watching a fighter who excels at a skill set that I don't have.
And to be fair, it's almost like another game, because like, even if I do that lineup's not baking, because I could just play Hero over Tobias Harris. Yeah. So it's like, even if I make that good pivot, I still would need to make the other pivot right there. And it's like, okay, so, oh, what a block by Embiid.
Oh, on Morris? Yeah, that was.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Go back to your home.
I am Batman. Block.
So, what were you saying, Mike? Where do you want to go with this year?
I was gonna say, I like give me an either or. Like, which player do you like? And I got one for you guys. So
Okay.
I got two young guards, one on either team in this game. One's got a little more experience, but I want to know who you think has the better career. Just overall, I guess, and it's subjective to what you think better career is ranked, but who's the better player long term, basically.
Mm-hmm.
We got Tyrese Maxey on Philly or Tyler Hero on the Heat.
Maxi, because he can play better defense long term. Go ahead, go.
Logan's like, done, answered. I have.
No, Hero's a good offensive guy, but I just feel like he's JJ Redick. Like his defense is very limited, and once he loses his legs as he gets older, not as good.
I see. I would probably disagree. Hold on, let me check something. Make sure I'm not off on this because I tend to be off on some things.
All right.
When it comes to players, so let me double check real quick to make sure I'm not too far off. But I'm pretty.
I think Mike was just saying like factor in the longevity, but you can have whatever reason you want. Just whatever guy would you buy stock into?
See, I would go with Hero. Yeah. But I think
I'm glad I asked the question because
I would go with Hero, but that's because I think Hero, even if he loses a step because he's a little bigger, he could just put on some weight and play a slightly different game. Whereas Maxey's 6'2", he's got to be able to be a guard for a while. And I don't think he's going to Chris Paul it and be a guard for like 10, 15 years. So once Maxey's legs go, they're kind of done. Now, Maxey's younger than Hero by like what? A year?
Yeah, it might not be that much because Hero came out after 1 year too.
Yeah.
Well, they're both Kentucky guys too. That's funny. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, they are both Kentucky guys. Yeah.
I got a good one.
Oh my God! Wait.
Oh, I want to answer too.
They're not even a year apart. Like Hero was born in January of 2000, and Maxey was born in November of 2000.
Wow. Okay.
So they're less than a year. They're about 9 months apart.
I would say I don't know enough about either of them defensively. I know Logan says Maxey's definitely the better one. I think Hero's probably the better 3-point shooter, but he's a little more streaky. Yeah. And I think Tyrese is probably a little bit more well-rounded on offense. Not to say Hero's not a bad – he can play a little point too, and he can definitely – he's not a bad ball handler. He's a solid ball handler, decent passer. But I think Maxey could continue to develop into a really good facilitator. He's already good at driving to the basket and finishing. It's not like he throws down, crazy dunks, but and he can still shoot too. So I think he's got a little more to offer on offense than Hero personally. But that's just from what I've seen in one season from Maxey. So it's hard to say because Hero looked so good his first year and regressed a little bit too. And he's kind of come back a little bit, but he's a little streaky sometimes at the same time too. So go ahead.
No, yes. Yeah, I mean, Maxey's got 2 years. Well, this is year 2, so he's looked pretty good. Like I would say, looking at the first 2 years.
That's right. Maxey didn't play much last year. That's what it was.
I mean, to be fair, if I look at his first 2 years compared to Hero's first 2 years, Maxey's played a little better. But if I go year 2, year 3 for Hero compared to year 1, year 2 for Maxey, they look about right.
Okay. Well, that's a good comparison.
So like
either or.
If Hero being a slight year older drops off a season sooner than Maxey, then maybe. But their stats are not too far off from each other to be fair.
Here we go.
And Hero is a better rebounder.
Go ahead, Mike. Who do you got, buddy?
Oh, I took Maxey, I said.
Oh,
I would still probably take Hero.
So Bam or Brandon Ingram?
Ingram.
I feel like they play. They're different. Like,
They are different, but
they're so different that I feel like it depends on what else you have on your team. But I know that's not the game, so I'll try and think of it a little more. But if you want to make your points, or like I know you said Ingram, right, Governor? If you want to go into that a little bit and try and, because I'll listen to the information and that can help sway my opinion. Not that I'm trying to be swayed, but like I like when people make points because I'm like, yeah, I would think that. I'm just not thinking that right now because we're on the spot.
Well, I'm just thinking like we're asking like who do I want over like the next like rest of their career or whatever.
Rest of their career, the rest of their prime, like and you know, assume they have the same amount
thinking
of
about that
in their prime,
and
like
what
the next
the
10
NBA
years and they're all prime.
Thinking about that and what the NBA is, even though Bam's good enough where like we were talking earlier, I don't think he gets played off the court in a fast series against like the Warriors. I'd still rather have the length and shooting and defense of Brandon Ingram for the next 10 years than an athletic center. I think the game's just changing that much where I don't need that tall guy who can run and shoot as much as give me the big wing like Ingram who can guard 4 spots and still be my offensive juggernaut. I got to take a break for a second. I'll be right back.
Good. Well, Logan, you want to go next or you want me to go?
This one's super close for me because I think Bam is very underrated in the sense that I feel like, remember when Jokic came in and he was playing with Nurkic and they were trying to decide which one to get rid of and which one to keep? It was not so cut and dry back then. Like we knew both of them were good, but if, they made the right choice by keeping Jokic, obviously. I think Bam could have that kind of momentum in his career. He's improved as a ball handler and as a decision maker and a passer every year in the league. Yep. I think Ingram is more consistent to like what he is now. Like what Ingram is now, I think is what Ingram will be over time. But the ceiling on Bam is intriguing. But I would take Ingram slightly just based on the defense.
I think this is a really tough one just because if I'm correct, I think they're both about the same height. I think they're both 6'8". Is that right, Logan? Sound right, at least? But so Ingram's definitely not got the same frame, though. He's a lot skinnier, better ball handle, and Adebayo's got the bigger frame where he can still run like small, but he can still bang with the bigs. And I think Bam, the one thing that's cool about both these guys, why it's such a tough argument, is because you could put either of these guys on any team and they'd be a fit, I feel like. I mean, they can fit into any team. If you put Bam on, a team with a good center already, like the Suns or something like that, with an 8 and who's the clear center, Bam could play the 4. We don't even know because he's not asked to do it, but I would bet Bam's capable of shooting a little bit more than he shows. I think he's shown a little bit of a mid-range, and I think if he was asked to do more or asked to play the 4 more, he could extend to at least the corner. But Ingram also, like, he's even more versatile because he can play the point guard, shooting guard, small forward. He can be a shorter power forward, or in a small ball lineup, he can play the 4. But I got to go Ingram, I think, overall, too, just because he can do more and he's a better passer. I think he's a better scorer. He's a better passer. I agree with Governot's thoughts on just more offensively a threat. Probably Bam's definitely the better defender, but Ingram's not a bad defender. And I think the difference is Bam's offense versus Ingram's defense. I think Ingram's defense is a little better than Bam's offense. And is I don't know who's it's so close. That was a good one, Logan. I agree. It's a pretty you're obviously happy with whoever you get if you land either of those guys, but I think Ingram can make more of an impact, make more guys better on your team too.
I got one more, Mike, that I think you'll find interesting. So Devin Booker or James Harden?
Booker. And I like Harden, but I'm starting to the more and more I'm starting to see, and I don't know if I'm listening to too many like ESPN narratives where they just want to, but I don't know if Harden's going out to the club every night and stuff, and like that's why he's not performing at his highest capability. Like I know he was on Brooklyn and putting up big numbers, and I know he had a lot of talent around him, but he was putting up big numbers when KD and Kyrie were hurt throughout the time while he's been there, and now he goes or when they were on the court he put up big numbers too, where now he's really he's had some games, but he had that awful game against the Nets when it was his first game against them since being traded. And then kind of since then, he's been all right. He just hit a pretty big three a moment ago, but they've kind of extended that lead. I guess he made it from a 9 to a 12-point lead with that three. So, but I think Booker's just so deadly offensively. I like James Harden's passing ability more, but I don't know if he's I'm not his teammate. I don't know. It just seems like things don't always work out and people don't always get along with him. And
I would agree with
people move. He moves on or people move on around him, and he's the constant, I guess.
Just over the hour mark seems to be a good spot to end, so then we can focus on the end of these games and make sure we catch the best parts as well, guys. So I was going to do that, but I was going to do some rapid fire with the boys just to talk a little NFL because that's one sport we haven't talked a lot about recently. And so I just was going to shoot through some of these free agents and maybe you could tell me. I want you to do the whole, where do you think they'll go? Just like your initial thoughts. If you have any, you can pass if you don't have any, just like we did with the draft. So you can pass or you can give a comment. Either why you think the guy isn't on a team or he should be on a team, and then if you think he should be on a team, what team? And we'll start with.
Well, you froze.
We'll start with.
Logan fell asleep. I can't tell.
I guess we're not going to start with nothing. I mean, we'll start with.
Keep going on the basketball game.
Start with the AFC, and what do you want to see from the Jets next year, Mike?
Well, I will say I thought they had their second good draft in a row, so I'm not a Jets fan per se, but I have enough friends that are Jets fans, and I don't root against my friends. I want my friends to have, especially since they're Jets fans, I realize they've had so much misery over the last few years, and then being a Giants fan over the last 5 years, I realized how much that
Absolutely
being awful
sucks.
sucks. It is brutal. It's you. There's no point to watching after like week 5, where you're just like,
No, yeah,
we have no freaking shot. I might as well go to work today.
see, that's where I can confidently march on as a Panthers fan because I've watched my dad be a Cleveland Browns fan my entire life.
And then we have Logan, who's trying to get back onto the podcast, and he's a Lions fan. Like, yikes.
Yeah. I was going to go through it by division. So, like, yeah, I'm not thinking the Jets are going to do like they had a very good draft, but I really don't think it means much for them. They're going to probably still be like a 4 or 5 win team at most. At most. Maybe even still 2-3 wins competing for the number 1.
I asked one of my uncles at the Mother's Day party today. It's like, hey, how'd you like the Giants draft? He's like, hey, all I want to say is I'm not going to get too hyped on anything about the Giants. All I'll say is we got some offensive line depth. I like that. Got some defensive line help. I'm just hoping we have one more win than last year. And if we do that, I can say I'll be happy. So if we get 5 wins, I'll be happy. And then anything more than that, I'll be ecstatic. We'll have exceeded my expectations. And I was like, all right, way to set the bar at a achievable level. I won't say low, but you know what I mean. I guess I did just say low, but I'm okay with that. How about this game? You think Philly rides it out, or Miami storms back with a late surge, down 12 now?
I go to I always go by the old what do I call it? Superstition adage of first team to 100 wins.
Oh.
So I don't see how Philly loses this game.
Well, I go with the old superstition adage. Wait a second. Sorry, I just got a pop-up ad on my thing, and I'm like,
you're good. It's about to say everything's looking okay. It looks like I should
No,
have made.
It's
like Butler just keeps playing so well. Like I'm probably going to do fine, but I need more from Embiid because now Harden's out playing Embiid a little too much. Harris is doing good. Danny Green hasn't done anything this half like normal. Like the rest of their team is negligible at best. I need more from Struss and Tucker. And like it's funny. I need 2 guys from Miami and 1 guy from Philly to play better so that I know my money goes up. But that is the kind of thing I do by not watching. Like, I don't watch DK. I just sort of watch DK live, and I know the fantasy points, and I know my lineup, and I see the other players' fantasy points, and I can sort of deconstruct lineups in my head to figure out, okay, who's probably the optimal captain, who's probably how the build is looking right here, depending on everyone's points. And it's like even right now, Harris and Maxey are good, but I still should have just played Hero in that price range.
So I got the worst timing when it comes to updates. I got to figure out how to get a better time clock so that way I don't just have a random update in the middle of a stream. So I do apologize. But maybe that should speak to maybe closing time, unless you guys had any closing remarks.
Oh no, I would like when we did that. I sort of winged it and started going through. So I'll ask you the question I asked him, and then we can maybe use that as a stepping stone the next time we talk. So I was going to start going through teams one by one. What do you think of the Jets this coming season after their draft? What would be your prediction of them? What do you think?
I think they're good. I don't think they're great, but I think as long as people's expectations of them stay reasonable, I think they're going to have a good year. Basically, I think they'll be competitive in that division, but to assume they're going to win the division because they had a good draft, I think is incorrect. But I do I like it when your coaching staff at least ideology-wise, matches your players. And I can't say they're going to be great players, but I can say the coach and the players are good fits, and that's what you can control.
Okay, see, because I had them as like, I think they're a little. They had a good draft, but I still think they're just only a little better than last year.
Well,
So like, they could still be a 2-3 win team competing for the number 1 seed or for the number 1 pick, but I would probably pencil them in for like 4 or 5 wins.
well,
Still
DK
probably 4th in the division. I don't have them competing in that division at all still, but I don't have them like being like the Jacksonvilles of the league or something.
See, but I do, but I think the Patriots on their way down, and I don't think the Bills are as good as people think. And so, like, given those two combinations, like for example, DK has the Jets win total right now, I believe at 5.5. I would take the over, just barely, but I would take the over.
And that's a good number for me, where it's like hard. I'd want to take the under, but I could totally see him getting 6 and fucking me.
Do you have any more to close up shopping?
Nope.
You don't want to stay on? We're doing an NBA live chat. That's the name of the podcast. We got
I was
6
about to
minutes
say.
left in this game. Miami's about to come back.
I'm waiting on it.
We can stay for the whole thing.
I'm down.
I got
I'm
7
gonna go to
minutes
the
in the
bathroom in a
4th right
second,
now.
but
So.
I was just gonna say. So as you walked away, and Gov was talking to me, I'm like, oh, hold on, I got something on my phone. So I wanted to. I thought I saw what I saw, but I was like, it's like that doesn't happen. So I got an alert on my thing that I had a $50 free bet on FanDuel Sportsbook. And I'm going on and I'm like, I don't know how I can use this. So then I like do a little more research, and then it's like you have to be updated on the app. So I then update the app. Sure enough, I had it. So then I'm like, well, putting it on Miami plus 1,600. Let's go. I'll be right back. I gotta go to the bathroom.
It's a 9-point game.
I don't know. Like, I go by the superstition first team to 100.
Well,
Philly got to 100 first. It's 101-92.
Uh-oh.
Miami's down 9. Like, they can make a run.
Harris is down.
What?
Oh. Shoulder, right?
Let me see.
they just said an elbow actually, but inadvertent.
No, but it looks like his collarbone. It looks like he might have broke his collarbone.
No.
He was just rubbing that area. I don't know that anything's broken. I mean, it's possible.
I doubt. I can't see how that would have. Like, hold on. I'm looking at the replay. I can't see how that breaks a collarbone.
He was up in that region, so I just was wondering.
I mean, Bam's, he kind of like used his forearm to shove him away at the neck.
Yeah, I don't know if it was.
I don't think he's horribly injured. I think he probably got caught on the neck, right there on the jugular, there on the nerve.
Anytime you get hit right on the bone, there ain't a lot of meat there. I'm sure that's a nice bone bruise.
But like, he clearly got whacked
he's back.
forearm
He's
right to the
back.
neck. But he's fine.
I'll be right back though.
He got hit forearm to neck, but it wasn't that bad. There's no real injury.
No, yeah, we're good. I just didn't see what happened, and I saw the guy like clutch up towards his neck. So I was like, oh, worst case scenario would be the collarbone. We already have one guy wearing a mask, and this is playoff basketball, physical, I guess. By the way, we got 5 minutes and 49 seconds. Me and Gov are about even. Mike's about 15 seconds to 45 seconds ahead of us, depending on the night and what channel he's watching it.
Well, that's what I get for watching things on a stream, but I don't pay as much for cable, so I'll deal with it.
Yeah, I'll definitely deal with it because
like, if I got to give up, I will give up live TV for cheaper, as long as it's only like a couple minutes.
Well,
or even like it is, like even as that, it's It's like 30 seconds at the most.
It's not just that, Gov. It's like they will nickel and
God
dime you.
damn, Harden is a mother.
Well, they nickel and dime you for a high definition and DVRs and like at least with the online like YouTube TV, you get unlimited streaming or recording, and you get like high definition included. Like that stuff matters to me at least.
Jimmy buckets.
This game's gonna be good for DFS purposes. Did you hear all the poker scandals going on?
I've heard something about it, but I haven't looked into it. No.
There's a lot going on. So like, what I would like to do is do more research and then come back and talk about it in a couple of weeks. But it's like all this shady stuff's going on, and then like you got the solvers out there that people are using, and the old school guys get mad at this new tech, and then you got big YouTubers trying to like support poker. So you got Mr. Beast getting into poker, but then people are like, well, his subscriber base is mostly children, but then he's not a child anymore. So it's like, there's a lot of interesting stuff happening in poker. And then, I was listening to Laws, which is Pete Overzet's channel with Brick 75, and they were talking about how DFS is a lot like the marijuana stuff, where it's like it'll probably never be, or poker, meaning DFS is like how it always will probably be state regulated, and there'll just never be a federal like law against it, because putting it in the state's hands makes it just more easy to like, oh well, if you don't like it, you can move, or well, each state has its own vibe. I just find that interesting. Like I recently found out that you don't actually have to offer unemployment benefits to people in your state if you don't want to. But the problem is the federal government will tax the hell out of businesses if a state chose not to do it, and so basically no state would ever do it. So I guess my question would be, Gov, do you think we ever see like a federal understanding of DFS or gambling, or do you think it's always going to be state to state?
It probably should be state to state. Like I agree with a lot of things being state to state, but the problem is there are, I don't know, ideally everything is state to state, but if you make everything state to state, now you're basically in a country as big as America, you're asking for like a civil war scenario, because now you're going to get groups of states doing the same thing together.
But it is with everything.
Yeah, but not everything. Like that's literally the main argument we're having right now.
No, but that's the
main argument in the courts right now.
The Constitution is every state.
No, yeah, and that's what it should be, and I agree with that. But then there's some things that are like
state to state.
Yeah, no, and most laws are state to state, but there's still federal stuff up, and I feel like there should be federal stuff up for some things, just because. I can't even give the right reason, but like that's why I'm with I'm against all the just to get out quick, I'm against all the Alito abortion stuff, trying to get rid of Roe v. Wade in that, because I don't think that should be a state to state thing, because that's going to cause a civil war when you get like Texas and a few other Bible states making it illegal / death penalty to get an abortion.
Yeah, well, I think the whole death penalty for abortion is the dumbest argument in my group. But I am pro-life. If we want.
No, yeah, but that's my thing. Like, I agree that it probably should just be a state-to-state thing, but I also understand that in a country as large as America, you could get a large portion of the country alienating a huge population of your country. Where
But-
it's like, if half your country's women and those women now don't want to live in 30-40% of your country, that could be a huge problem. That could be a huge problem.
Isn't it funny how like all these issues can resort back to sports and vice versa though? Like, because I don't know, I find all this really interesting. I think that's why DFS has always been a pull to me. It's because you're always trying to solve for something, but then like it has to do with my hobby. It's like Mike was saying, like you can have both opinions. You can say, hey, to have the death penalty for this it's a bit stupid.
That's contradictory. I 100% agree. If that's really what some states are proposing, which I don't know if it's true. I read it on Reddit, so
Right.
pretty left-leaning social media thing. Pretty much, I feel like run by bots. Like not run by bots, but like most of the postings are bots.
But I guess that's my point. It's like, Mike, why can't we take a lesson from sports and everything? And I guess that's the point of this podcast, especially. It's like maybe Victor Oladipo never makes an All-Star game, but he's valuable to this Heat team in the playoffs. Like, and so like when it comes to these political issues, are you for abortion or are you against it? It's like, well, can't I see both sides of the argument? Like maybe I lean one way or the other heavier, but like it doesn't mean if I don't think Victor Oladipo is not an All-Star that he's like some bum who never needs to play in the NBA. It's just like I wish we could look at all of our life and be like, yeah, it's not that important, you know. Like let's focus on what's really important, you know. And I just feel like we bog ourselves down with all that stuff that isn't important.
Oh shit! Miami is making a run.
Speaking of which, why are people mad that Daniel Cormier got in the Hall of Fame so quickly? Talking about like why people are mad about silly things because we all know he's a Hall of Famer.
Dude, Harden hasn't missed a three. Where the hell did this come from?
He gets a game. He gets a game like that.
Yeah, he does. But like, man, what a bad time for me to bet on Miami, and then he hits like 3 straight threes in people's face. Lob.
Yeah, I don't know how I got so lucky today, but everything's coming up looking today.
You got Harden?
I got Harden.
Oh, that's solid then, because he's been killing it. Hey,
Butler's a beast, but Harden is the next guy. Like Harden over Embiid right now.
I got a quick question for you since this commercial just came up, and it's the Grizzlies Warriors game. What do you guys think of that John Morant injury with Jordan Poole grabbing his knee?
Dirty.
I didn't even see it, but like I honestly don't think like I'll start looking it up. Give me a sec.
I don't want to go as far to say it was dirty with intent, but I think it was like an instinct play where he was going for the ball, didn't get it, and was reaching back and was like, well, since I didn't get that, I'm just gonna do a little something to slow you up. And I don't think he meant to injure the guy because he doesn't pull it back far. It's not like he pulls it back to bring him to the ground or anything like that. But he does, in the slow motion, it looks like almost nothing. But then I'm like, but that's not how it happened. It happened in real time. So if you watch it fast, it doesn't look great to me as far as like being, no intent at all. I'm not saying he intended to hurt him. I think he intended to he was frustrated. He couldn't get the ball on that reach. And then it's just like, well, we're trying to double team you. I'm just trying to kind of put some pressure on you, fluster you a little bit, make you uncomfortable. And, no malintent, but not a clean foul. Or like, I don't know how you spin it, but
it definitely wasn't clean. We all have dirty laundry. I'm not saying like he meant to like hurt him, but I would say he didn't care if he hurt him. That's how I'd say it.
I don't think he's. Yeah, I don't know. I guess they're also a little, mad about their guy going down, but I don't think. Yeah, that's not a fair trade. Gary Payton Jr. for John Morant.
No.
Can't go after. I don't know. I didn't like it watching it, but we'll see how it impacts the
I
series.
mean,
Are they going to suspend Poole, you think?
God, no. What the hell are you guys talking about? I just watched that 5 times. They didn't
But if
call
Ja
anything
doesn't
on
play,
the
like-
court. There's no problem. If Ja has, this is exactly what I've been saying all year. If a little hand touch where he didn't even grab him, he basically grazed by the dude's hand. Now, I'll admit, Poole's like probably should have been called for a foul because if you do that to the elbow, that's a foul. He did it to his knee. It's a foul. Okay, he probably should have been called for a common foul. If John Knee goes out because of that, thank you for me being right. He won't last 4 years. Literally frail. I'm just going to call it right there. Frail. If he misses a game because of that, frail.
Did you watch it on slow motion or fast?
I watched 4 replays. All in slow motion.
All in slow motion, so
yes.
It doesn't matter because in slow motion, it does look like nothing.
The first replay is it in normal time when he's getting the ball right there at half court. He's got his legs way stretched out. Why is he so goddamn wide? He takes a little like finger touch to the side of his knee, and that tweaked his knee enough where he needs to not play a game. Frail.
But hold on, though. We can argue the injury perspective, and I get that you don't like John Morant.
I mean, I don't think he's a bad player. My biggest thing on John Morant is he is playing in a way where he's going to get injured and not last. And he needs to change his game and re-round it. He's got a lot of talent. He's an amazing player. But the way he's playing, he wasn't going to last. And I'm sorry, he didn't play all of this season because of injury. And now a normal common foul is causing him to miss a game.
He missed a quarter of the season.
I was going to say,
Okay, but he missed time in a season in his second year? This isn't his rookie year, right?
Everyone misses time.
Yeah, and then he's missing playoff games, and that's what makes you not like. I am willing to say that a guy who keeps getting injured, even if when you're not injured, you're the greatest player on the court, you're not going to make the Hall of Fame, and I wouldn't vote for you for the Hall of Fame. You don't stay healthy enough to be effective. As good as you are when you play, you couldn't play enough to be worthy, in my mind. And I'm seeing this is not good. I'm watching another replay in real time.
I will always support someone.
I wouldn't even call that a foul on the court. I see why they didn't even call it a foul on the court. In real time, I see nothing.
You don't see it, but it doesn't dispute the fact that he did it. In slow motion proves that he did do it.
In slow motion, it proves that there's a common foul. In fast motion, it looks like nothing happens. And all of a sudden, Ja has.
It's not a basketball play.
Yeah, I disagree.
I mean, he was going for the ball, and then he's not.
If he does that on the elbow, it's a basketball play. The fact that Ja's legs are all out wide and the ball's down there, he's definitely swiping for he's going around the knee to go for the ball, but he catches his knee on the way back, just like you would catch an elbow on trying to grab for a rebound or something. I see it as a normal basketball play, common foul that just happens to be on his knee because he's literally in this stance. Ja's feet are double shoulder width.
Okay.
He's not in a good balanced position straight up. If he's just in a normal position on the court, you grab his knee, it doesn't hyperextend or whatever happened. He's in a horrible balanced position. He gets a random weird common foul that hits his knee instead of his elbow. And now he's got to miss a game because of his knee. Again, I saw this coming and kind of called it. I hope he gets healthy, and I hope he can change his game and put on some strength in his lower body and his core and be able to play better.
Gov, you got away from the original point. Was it a dirty play by Poole?
No, I don't even think it was a foul to begin with. But on replay, I would make it a common foul. So if they're not in the bonus, then yeah, ball out to the side. Like again, I have to see a slow-mo replay to give it a foul, but I wouldn't even make it a foul to just to start.
I think it was dirty.
I don't see any dirtiness in it all.
I don't know if it was intentionally dirty, but I guess my point is the fact that Dylan Brooks gets suspended for a game for the foul he had. He was going for the ball, and then when he follows through, he hits the body, and the result is an injury for the other player. He didn't even touch the guy's elbow. So, you could be like, well, it had nothing to do with this. It's because he didn't he didn't fall properly. Like John Morant, but you could argue Gary Payton Jr. wasn't expecting to be clobbered and knocked to the ground like that. Well, John Morant wasn't expecting to have his leg grabbed and pulled awkwardly in a way that it doesn't normally go.
Yeah, I'll give you that, but I would also say that Gary Payton
Was there
should
a
know
consequence
Gary Payton should know when
the
you're falling to the
impact of
ground, you
what
land on
happened?
your back, you land on your butt. You don't try to brace yourself with your arm. You kind of got to know that. I sort of agree with you.
That's the precedent, though. Now that he said Dylan Brooks got suspended, and I get he did.
Dylan Brooks got suspended because he straight up swacked his arm in a flagrant foul that caused Gary Payton to go down. Now, Gary Payton's arm got hurt because he tried to brace that thing with his arm, and that's why he has a fracture in his elbow.
He's a defenseless guy in the air, so
right.
That's true.
That's
I
why
get
Dylan Brooks got there.
This
was not even a called foul on the court, really. And you have to replay to see that it would be a normal common foul swipe.
That's fair.
It just happened when he swipes, he hits his knee. While swiping at the ball at that low angle, he gets the knee. It's not even even for what I see, it doesn't look like he grabs and jerks it. He just catches it on the way around from the swipe.
Gov, I promise you,
it doesn't look like something that should hyperextend your knee if you don't already have knee problems.
Gov, we love each other and we love doing this podcast, and so we'll probably be back tomorrow night when this is more relevant when they play. So I'm going to close up shop and we can come back tomorrow night and talk about this. But I got to say one last thing. We talked about the UFC to start. Let's end with the UFC. Shame on Conor McGregor for clowning Tony Ferguson the way he did on Twitter. I didn't like it. I'm a fan of your come up, Conor. I'm a fan of a lot of what you do, even when you're trash talking. But you went too far with Tony's knockout. I didn't like it. But we'll get into all that probably tomorrow night, if not the next night. We're going to close up the virtual bar for the night. Have a good one, guys. It was fun. Hopefully you learned something. Hopefully you enjoyed hanging out. Good night.
Adios.